Today, we're diving into the world of Sambong. It's this traditional herb that's been used for generations, but now it's stepping into the spotlight of modern science. And that's where the story gets really interesting, where ancient wisdom has to face today's demand for cold, hard evidence.
And that brings us to the big question, right? Can something that's been passed down for centuries, this ancient wisdom, really hold a key to treating the kinds of things we deal with today? Let's dig into that using this one pretty remarkable plant as our guide.
So, first things first, let's meet Sambong. Its scientific name is Blumia balsamifera, and it's a medicinal plant that's a huge deal in the Philippines. We're talking centuries here. Its leaves have been a cornerstone of traditional healing for, well, just about everything from a common cold to more serious stuff.
But what's all the buzz about? What are the benefits that have made Sambong stick around for so long in traditional medicine? Let's break down the three biggest claims you always hear about this herb.
Okay, first up, and this is probably its most famous use, kidney support. In traditional circles, Sambong is pretty much the go-to remedy for keeping your kidneys healthy, especially when it comes to heading off those super painful kidney stones.
So the thinking behind this is that Sambong works as a diuretic. Basically, it makes you pee more, which helps to flush out your whole urinary system. The idea is actually pretty simple and kind of elegant. You clear out all those extra minerals and salts that can clump together and form stones before they become a problem.
All right, the second major claim is Sambong's power to soothe inflammation. And this is a huge deal, you know? So many modern health issues are linked back to chronic inflammation, things like arthritis and other serious conditions. And this is where Sambong is said to offer some real relief.
So how does it supposedly pull this off? Well, the plant is packed with these bioactive compounds, things like flavonoids and essential oils. The theory is that these compounds actually get in there and influence the body's inflammatory responses. That's why it's been the traditional choice for stuff like the joint pain and swelling from arthritis, and even for things like diarrhea, where inflammation is a big part of the problem.
And the third big promise? Natural pain relief. This is so important, especially in rural areas where you might not have easy access to a modern pharmacy. For a lot of people, Sambong has been a popular way to manage pain without having to worry about the side effects of some synthetic drugs.
It's got these analgesic, pain-relieving properties that make it great for everyday stuff like headaches and stomach aches. And you know what? There's even a little bit of science starting to peek through here. Some early, small studies are suggesting that the essential oils in Sambong might actually interrupt the body's pain signals on a chemical level. Pretty cool, right?
And that question right there, that's the pivot point. We've heard all the traditional promises, and hey, after centuries of use, they sound pretty compelling. But what happens when we put these claims under the microscope of modern science?
Okay, time for a reality check. Let's really look at this tension between long-standing traditional use and the super strict standards of scientific evidence. This is where the story gets a lot more complex.
So on one hand, you've got traditional use. This is built on generations of practice, of stories. It's anecdotal evidence passed down from person to person. But on the other hand, you have the scientific standard, which demands these huge, controlled clinical trials on humans. And when it comes to Sambong, that kind of solid evidence, well, it's just not there yet.
Now, while the research we do have is promising, it's mostly small scale, it's preliminary. And this really shines a light on a bigger challenge. Getting funding for studies on herbs is tough. And trying to standardize a plant for a clinical trial, that's way more complicated than testing a single chemical in a pill. This is exactly why so many traditional remedies kind of stay on the fringes of mainstream medicine.
So, with this gap between tradition and evidence, what does that mean for you? If you're curious about trying Sambong. Let's switch gears from the theory and get into a practical guide on how to approach this herb safely and responsibly.
Okay, and this is the most important part, the absolute #1 rule. Talk to a healthcare provider first. Seriously, this isn't just a friendly suggestion. It's the most critical step you can take for your own safety. A professional can look at your personal health history and help you figure out if Sambong is even a good idea for you. So here's a quick safety checklist. First, get the dosage right. Too much can lead to things like an upset stomach. Second, and this is a big one, tell your doctor about all the medications you're on. Because Sambong is a diuretic, it could mess with drugs for blood pressure, diabetes, or even other diuretics. And finally, if you're pregnant or nursing, it's best to just steer clear for now. There's simply not enough safety data out there.
And that brings us to a really key idea. Sambong should be seen as a complementary therapy. What that means is it's meant to be used with your regular medical treatments, not instead of them. It's not a magic bullet or a cure-all. Think of it as a potential supporter of your health, not a replacement for your doctor's advice.
So, after looking at the promise, checking the science, and running through the practical safety stuff, what's the bottom line? Let's bring it all home with a final thought.
Ultimately, Sambong is a really fascinating herb. It's so rich in tradition and just full of potential. It's a perfect example of a natural remedy that's on that long road to scientific validation, but we have to remember, it's still at the very beginning of that journey.
And that leaves us with this final, big question to think about. As the research continues to grow, do you think these ancient remedies like Sambong will finally cross that divide and become a normal, integrated part of modern medicine? Only time and a lot more science is going to tell. What do you think is next?